crystalline chamber of the Galactic Concord hummed with energy, its towering spires refracting light into prismatic patterns across the assembled delegates. Anti-grav pods floated in precise formations, each containing representatives from the 37 species of the Sentinel Pact. Their bioluminescent markings flickered with disapproval, a symphony of colors that signaled collective disdain. Captain Elias Vance stood alone on the defendant's platform, his boots planted firmly on the smooth, glass-like surface. His uniform, dull gray fabric, with the insignia of the USN Judgment stitched over his heart, stood out starkly against the iridescent robes of the gathered aliens. A jagged scar ran from his left cheekbone to his jawline, a relic from a battle none of these diplomats would ever understand. The Zenthari High Arbiter, a towering figure with elongated limbs and translucent skin, raised a three-fingered hand. The chamber fell silent. "Humanity stands accused of barbarism," the Arbiter intoned, their voice resonating through the chamber like a struck gong. "Your methods of warfare violate the rules of civilized engagement, psychological manipulation, deception, unpredictability." A murmur rippled through the assembly. Elias didn't flinch. He'd expected this. A Vexian delegate, their chitinous plates rattling with agitation, leaned forward in their pod. "You fight like animals," they hissed, their compound eyes glinting with contempt. "No honor, no rules, just chaos." Elias smirked. "You call it chaos, we call it winning." The chamber erupted. Alien voices overlapped in a cacophony of outrage. A Luminar diplomat, their glass-like skin shimmering with stress fractures, slammed a delicate hand against their pod's console. "This is precisely what we mean. You refuse to adhere to the conventions of war." Elias crossed his arms. "Conventions? You mean the ones where both sides line up and take turns shooting at each other like it's some kind of game?" The Zenthari Arbiter's elongated fingers twitched. "War is not a game, Captain Vance. It is a structured exchange of force governed by mutual respect." "Mutual respect?" Elias barked a laugh. "Tell that to the Vorac when they glassed the Tarkis colonies. Oh wait, you couldn't, because they didn't follow your rules either." The chamber fell silent again. The Tarkis massacre was a sore subject, a failure the Concord preferred to forget. A Farian scholar, their frilled neck ruff trembling, spoke softly. "The Vorac are an exception. Their brutality is why we formed the Sentinel Pact, to protect against such savagery." Elias leveled his gaze at them. "And yet here you are, calling us the barbarians." The Arbiter's voice cut through the tension. "The evidence is undeniable. The Battle of Cerulean Reach was a victory," Elias interrupted. "One your civilized fleets couldn't achieve in 6 months of trying." The Vexian delegates' mandibles clacked in agitation. "You lured the Zenthari Armada into an asteroid field. You detonated grav mines like some common pirate." Elias shrugged. "They shouldn't have chased us." The Arbiter's translucent skin darkened with frustration. "This is precisely why the Council has voted unanimously to ban humanity from the Sentinel Pact. Your methods are a threat to the stability of civilized warfare." Elias felt the weight of the stairs pressing down on him, the disdain, the fear. He straightened his shoulders. "You want stability." His voice was low, dangerous. "War isn't stable, it's not supposed to be. You want to ban us? Fine. But don't come crying to us when the Vorac come knocking again." The chamber was silent. Even the ever-present hum of the anti-grav pods seemed to quiet. The Arbiter finally spoke. "The decision is final. Humanity is hereby excluded from the mutual defense protocols of the Sentinel Pact. May you find other ways to survive." Elias turned on his heel and strode toward the exit. As the crystalline doors hissed shut behind him, he allowed himself a grim smile. They'd learn. Sooner than they thought, the crystalline chamber fell silent as the Zenthari High Arbiter activated the holographic display. A shimmering battlefield materialized above the central platform. The infamous Battle of Cerulean Reach. Alien delegates leaned forward in their anti-grav pods, bioluminescent patterns flickering with curiosity. Elias Vance crossed his arms, watching the replay with cold satisfaction. The footage showed the USN Defiance and USN Martyr, two human cruisers, darting through the asteroid belt like wounded prey. Behind them, the massive Zenthari Armada gave chase, their golden hulls gleaming under the distant star's light. "Observe," the Arbiter intoned, "the so-called tactics of humanity." The hologram zoomed in as the human ship suddenly split apart, weaving through the asteroids with impossible precision. The Zenthari fleet, confident in their superior firepower, followed without hesitation. Then the asteroids exploded. Not from weapons, fire, from within grav mines. Hidden weeks before, detonated in perfect sequence. The shockwaves shattered the Zenthari formation, sending their ships careening into each other or smashing against the rocks. Secondary explosions rippled through their ranks as reactors overloaded. In less than 30 seconds, the mightiest armada in the sector was reduced to floating wreckage. The chamber erupted. "This is an outrage," shrieked the Luminar diplomat, their glass-like skin fracturing with stress. "You lured them into a death trap." Elias didn't blink. "They had us outgunned 10-1. You call it a trap, we call it a solution." A Vexian delegate slammed its chitinous fist against its pod. "Where is the honor? The dignity? You humans fight like scavengers." "Scavengers survive," Elias countered. "Your honorable fleets don't." The hologram shifted to show the aftermath. Human rescue pods darting through the debris field, pulling Zenthari survivors from the wreckage. "And what of this?" the Arbiter demanded. "You spare the defeated only to humiliate them further." Elias' jaw tightened. "We gave them medical aid, food, safe passage home." "A trick," a Farian scholar hissed, their frills flaring. "You wanted them to spread fear of your mercy. Or," Elias said slowly, "we just didn't see the point in letting them die." The chamber fell silent again. A new hologram flickered to life, this time showing the Zenthari survivors months later, testifying before their own high command. "The humans, they could have slaughtered us all," one Zenthari officer admitted, his voice trembling. "Instead, they treated our wounded, shared their rations, even sang to calm our young." The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. "You see," Elias said, "we fight to win, but we don't fight to exterminate." The Vexian sneered. "And yet you still resort to cowardly tactics." Elias turned to face the creature fully. "Tell me, delegate, if your nest were attacked by a predator 10 times your size, would you face it head on, or would you use every trick, every advantage, to protect your people?" The Vexian's mandibles clicked in agitation but didn't answer. The Arbiter raised a slender hand. "Enough, the footage speaks for itself. Humanity's methods are unorthodox, but the results cannot be denied." "Then you agree?" Elias pressed. "We won." "You cheated," the Luminar spat. Elias smirked. "You said we couldn't win a fair fight, so we didn't fight fair." The chamber dissolved into chaos again, but Elias didn't care. Had made his point. And the galaxy was starting to listen. The Vorac champion stood 7 feet tall, his armored plates clicking as he flexed his 4 arms. The war simulation chamber hummed around them, its holographic projectors ready to recreate any battlefield in the Concord's vast archives. Across from him, Lieutenant Kara Holt adjusted her neural interface headset, her fingers tapping a rapid rhythm against her thigh. "You humans begged for this chance," the Vorac rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "Now you will learn why we are the superior warriors." Kara didn't look up. Sure." The Concord delegates watched from their floating observation pods, their bioluminescent markings flickering with amusement. This was supposed to be a formality, A final humiliation to prove humanity's inferiority. No tricks, no traps, just raw, unfiltered combat. The Zenthari High Arbiter's voice echoed through the chamber. Begin the simulation. Standard Vorac engagement rules apply. The room dissolved into a starfield. Kara's boots clicked against the deck of a simulated cruiser, the USN Tempest. Alarms blared as Vorac warships materialized on the tactical display. Lieutenant Holt, the Vorac champion's voice, crackled over the comms. Surrender now, you are outmatched. Kara's neural implant flared to life. The world slowed. Every calculation, every possible move, the Vorac might make flickered through her mind in milliseconds. She exhaled. Let's dance. The Vorac ships surged forward, their formations flawless, their weapons primed. Kara's fingers flew across the console. The Tempest banked hard, slipping between two enemy cruisers like a knife through water. What is she doing? A Luminar delegate whispered. The Vorac champion snarled. Evasive maneuvers won't save you, human. Kara didn't answer. She let them chase her, let them think they had her cornered. The Tempest's engines flared as she led them deeper into the simulated nebula. Now, she murmured. The Tempest spun, its railguns locking onto the lead Vorac ship's weak point. A tiny gap in their armor no organic mind could have spotted in combat. The shot ripped through the cruiser's core. The simulation flashed red. First kill, Kara said. The Vorac champion roared. His remaining ships regrouped, their formations tightening. Kara's implant calculated their next move before they did. She cut power, letting the Tempest drift silently as the Vorac fleet overshot her position. Where? The Tempest's missiles streaked out from behind, obliterating two more ships. The delegates gasped. This wasn't supposed to happen. Vorac didn't lose. Not like this. The champion's remaining ship charged, its plasma cannons overheating in fury. Kara waited. Let him come. At the last second, she triggered the Tempest's emergency thrusters, flipping the ship vertically. The Vorac cruiser screamed past, its guns firing wildly into empty space. Kara's railgun punched through its engines. The simulation froze. The words, victory, human forces flashed across the chamber in glaring red letters. Silence, the Vorac champion staggered out of his pod, his plates rattling. This is impossible. You cheated. Kara removed her headset, her dark eyes calm. I followed your rules. No tricks, no traps, just better tactics. The delegates murmured. The Vorac had never been beaten in a fair fight. Not once in 3 centuries of war games. Kara stepped closer to the champion, her voice dropping to a whisper only he could hear. You fight with honor, we fight to survive. The chamber erupted. Some delegates shouted accusations. Others demanded scans of Kara's implant, certain it had to be illegal. The Zenthari High Arbiter's tentacles thrashed in agitation. Captain Elias Vance leaned back in his seat, a slow smile spreading across his scarred face. The game had just changed. The chamber fell silent as the central holographic display flickered to life. The Galactic Concord delegates leaned forward in their pods, bioluminescent patterns shifting with curiosity. What they saw made several species recoil. These are Earth's historical archives, Captain Elias Vance said, his voice cutting through the murmurs. Classified until today. Grainy footage showed trenches filled with mud and blood, human soldiers in primitive armor crouched in the filth, their faces smeared with dirt and exhaustion. Explosions rocked the landscape, sending plumes of earth skyward. The Vexian delegates' chitinous plates rattled in disgust. This is filth. You fought like vermin in the dirt? Elias didn't blink. We fought where we had to. The footage changed. A jungle now, dense and green. Figures moved silently through the undergrowth, their faces painted, their weapons crude but deadly. Ambushes erupted without warning, traps made of sharpened bamboo, pits lined with spikes. The Luminar diplomats' glass-like skin pulsed with distress. You butchered each other like this. No honor, no rules. A new scene, cities reduced to rubble, civilians fleeing as fire rained from the sky. The images shifted faster, guerrilla fighters blending into crowds, suicide bombers, propaganda broadcasts designed to break morale. The Tharian scholar's frills wilted. You've been practicing war like this for centuries. Elias crossed his arms. Longer. Lieutenant Kara Holt stepped forward, her neural implant glinting under the chamber lights. You want to know why we don't fight fair? Because we learned. The hologram froze on a single image, a child's drawing scrawled on a bombed-out wall. Why? Kara's voice was soft. Because when your back's against the wall, honor doesn't feed your family, rules don't stop the bombs. The Zenthari High Arbiter's tendrils twitched. This is barbarism. Elias laughed. No, this is history. The footage shifted again, modern human ships, sleek and deadly, executing maneuvers no alien fleet could predict. Ambushes in asteroid fields, false retreats into nebulas, hacked enemy comms broadcasting panic. The Vorac delegate, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. You evolved this? Kara's smile was cold. We refined it, the chamber erupted. The Vexian shrieked about dishonor. The Luminar demanded the footage be erased. The Tharian scholar simply stared, their frills trembling. Elias let the chaos build before raising a hand. You banned us for being unpredictable, for refusing to fight your way. He leaned forward. But here is the thing about war. The only rule that matters is winning. The hologram changed one last time. A single phrase, scrawled in a dozen human languages, appeared in the air. All's fair in love and war. The silence that followed was heavier than gravity. The Tharian scholar finally broke it. You never had the luxury of honor, did you? Elias met their gaze. No, we didn't, Kara added quietly. And that is why you'll never beat us. The delegates exchanged glances for the first time. Something like fear flickered in their alien eyes. The High Arbiter's voice was barely a whisper. Show us more. Elias smiled. Gladly. The footage rolled on. The crystalline halls of the Concord's grand chamber trembled. Distant explosions echoed through the transparent walls, casting flickering orange light across the terrified faces of the assembled delegates. The Zenthari High Arbiter's voice crackled over the emergency comms, their usual arrogance replaced by raw panic. Vorac dreadnoughts have breached the outer defense grid. There, the transmission dissolved into static. Captain Elias Vance watched from the defendant's platform, his arms crossed. Around him, the so-called civilized species of the galaxy scrambled like insects. A Luminar diplomat shattered their own crystalline podium in their haste to flee. The Vexian delegates' chitinous plates rattled uncontrollably as they turned to Elias, their compound eyes wide with desperation. You have to help us, the Vexian hissed. Elias didn't move. Help you. He glanced at the holographic battle map flickering above them. The Vorac Armada, over 300 capital ships, had already obliterated the Concord's vaunted, honorable fleets. Their plasma lances carved through Zypharian's orbital defenses like a knife through water. You banned us for fighting dirty, Elias said, his voice calm. Now you want our barbarism? A Tharian scholar lunged forward, their frills flushed crimson. This isn't the time for pride, they'll glass our cities. Outside, the sky lit up with the fire of dying warships. The Concord's last defensive line, the Sentinel Pack's combined fleet, was being systematically torn apart. The Vorac weren't just winning. They were humiliating the galaxy's self-proclaimed masters of war. Elias tapped his wristcom. Lieutenant Holt. Status? Kara's voice crackled back, cool as ice. Wesenrath and Retribution are holding at the edge of the system, awaiting orders. The Zenthari High Arbiter materialized in a flickering hollow projection, their once pristine robes now torn and smeared with soot. Captain Vance, the Vorac have broken through to the planetary shield generators. If they fall, I know what happens, Elias interrupted. He studied the faces around him, the same faces that had sneered at human tactics hours earlier. Now they were begging. A deep boom shook the chamber. Dust rained from the ceiling. Please, the Arbiter whispered. Elias exhaled. Here's the thing about civilized war, he said, stepping forward. It assumes your enemy plays by the same rules. He activated his comm. Halt, execute protocol scorched earth. Silence. Then, acknowledged, deploying blackout package in 3, 2, 1. The battle map flickered. Then, Chaos Vorac ships suddenly veered off course. Entire battle groups opened fire on each other. The dreadnought Vorac's Fang, flagship of the invasion, spun wildly, its engines flaring as it collided with two of its own cruisers. What is this? The Arbiter gasped. Elias smirked. You called it cheating. We call it electronic warfare. On the view screen, the Vorac fleet descended into madness. Ships that had moved with perfect coordination minutes earlier now fired blindly, their comms flooded with false orders. The USN Wrath slid into view, its sleek black hull untouched by battle. Kara's face appeared on the main display. Vorac command structure is in full collapse. Their AI core just received a very convincing message that their High Overlord ordered a fleet-wide purge of traitors. She shrugged. Their killing each other now saves us the trouble. The chamber was dead silent. The Vexian delegate staggered back. You hacked them. No, Elias said, turning toward the exit. We broke them. Another explosion rocked the city. Closer this time. Wait, the Arbiter cried. You can't just leave. Elias paused at the door. Watch me. Outside, the sky burned. Human ships danced through the chaos, untouched. The Vorac Armada, the galaxy's most feared military force, was tearing itself apart, and the Concord finally understood. There were no rules in war, only winners and losers. The Vorac Armada filled the view screens of the Concord's orbital defense stations, their sleek black warships blotting out the stars. The Zenthari High Arbiter's voice trembled over the emergency broadcast. We cannot hold. Their weapons bypass our shields, their tactics. The transmission dissolved into static as another defense platform exploded, in a silent bloom of fire. On the bridge of the USN Wrath, Captain Elias Vance watched the carnage unfold. His fingers drummed against the armrest of his command chair. Lieutenant Kara Holt stood beside him, her neural implant humming as it processed the battlefield data. They're using the Concord's own predictability against them, she murmured. Classic hammer and anvil, just like the simulations. Elias smirked. Time to remind them why they called us barbarians. He opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, execute protocol Lazarus. Let's give the Vorac a taste of chaos. Across the human fleet, technicians activated a series of black market comm relays stolen from a Vorac scouting party months earlier. The USN Retribution cyber warfare team flooded the enemy's encrypted channels with false orders, their fingers flying across holographic keyboards. Feeding them the bait now, reported Ensign Reavers. On the Vorac flagship, Supreme Warlord Graxak snarled as his tactical display flickered. Why are the third claw ships breaking formation? His second, in command, a hulking warrior named Vec, stiffened. They're receiving orders to flank the human vessels from your command code, Warlord. Graxak's claws unsheathed. I gave no such, too late. The third claw's battleships pivoted, their plasma cannons charging, not toward the human fleet, but toward Graxak's own flagship, Panicked Vorac voices shrieked over the comms as friendly fire ripped through their formation. "Traitors," Graxak roared. "All ships, eliminate the third claw." Aboard the Wrath, Kara watched the Vorac fleet tear itself apart. "They're turning on each other like rabid dogs," she said, her voice cold. Elias leaned back. "Funny how honor goes out the airlock when you think your brothers betrayed you." On the surface of Zephyrian, the Concord's leaders stared at the holographic feed in horror. The Luminar diplomat's crystalline body pulsed with erratic light. This is dishonorable. The Vorac are killing their own." Zenthari High Arbiter Claxis gripped the edge of his floating podium, his bioluminescent stripes darkening with shame. And yet, it is working. Above them, the human fleet moved like ghosts through the chaos. The Retribution's railguns picked off Vorac ships caught in the crossfire, while the Wrath launched a swarm of AI-piloted drones straight into the heart of the enemy's command cluster. Each drone carried no explosives, just more hacked transmissions, more confusion. Graxak's flagship shuddered as a trio of his own cruisers opened fire. "Fall back," he bellowed. "Regroup at." A human missile, silent and unmarked, slipped through the fray. It detonated against the flagship's engines, sending the mighty vessel spiraling into the gravity well of Zephyrian's moon. The remaining Vorac ships, leaderless and paranoid, broke. Some fled, others fired wildly at anything that moved, including each other. In the Concord's war chamber, the alien delegates stood in stunned silence. The Vexian delegates' chitinous plates rattled. You made them destroy themselves." Elias' face appeared on their main screen, his scarred cheek illuminated by the battle's glow. "You wanted a fair fight, we gave you a victory." Kara stepped forward, her neural implant still flickering with data. "You judged us for fighting dirty, but out here," she gestured to the wreckage of the Vorac fleet, "there's no such thing as dirty, only alive." The Farian scholar's frills trembled. "We were fools." Claxis bowed his head. "We beg your assistance, Captain Vance. The Vorac will return. We cannot stop them." Elias exchanged a glance with Kara. Then he smiled, a predator's smile. "Oh, they'll return. And when they do," he tapped a command into his console, "we'll be waiting." The screen cut to black, leaving the Concord to stare at the ashes of their so-called civilized war. The crystalline chamber of the Galactic Concord had never known silence like this. The iridescent glow of alien delegates flickered uncertainly as Captain Elias Vance stood before them, the scar on his cheek catching the light like a badge of honor. The Zenthari High Arbiter's tentacles trembled as they extended a data crystal toward him, the revised treaty now offering humanity a permanent seat on the High Council. Elias didn't reach for it. "You misunderstand," he said, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "We didn't come here for your approval." The Farian scholar's frills flushed crimson. "You would refuse the Concord's highest honor." Kara Holt stepped forward, her neural implant humming faintly. "Honor didn't save your homeworld." "We did." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Vorac Empire's attack had left the Concord's fleets in ruins, their vaunted rules of civilized engagement proving useless against an enemy that fought to win. Now, the delegates stared at the humans with something new in their multifaceted eyes. Fear, the Vexian delegates' chitinous plates rattled. You hacked their entire comm network, turned their own ships against them. That is effective. Elias finished. He tapped the insignia on his uniform, the USN emblem, a silver earth wreathed in flames. "While you were debating the morality of flanking maneuvers, we were rewriting your enemy's battle plans mid-fight." A hologram flickered to life above the central dais, replaying the battle. Human cruisers, Wrath and Retribution, danced through the Vorac formation, not with brute force, but with precision strikes that crippled command ships. Then came the coup de grace phase, falsified orders broadcast across enemy channels, sending entire battle groups spiraling into friendly fire. The Luminar diplomat's glass, like skin, cracked further. You made them destroy themselves. Kara shrugged. Efficient, isn't it? The Zenthari High Arbiter rose, their anti-grav pod trembling. You must see reason. The Sentinel Pact needs your methods. The Vorac will return. Elias finally picked up the data crystal, then dropped it. The shattering sound echoed like a gunshot. Here is humanity's counteroffer, he said, nodding to Kara. She activated her wrist console across the chamber. Every holographic display switched to a single image, Earth's moon, its cratered surface, now studded with massive orbital cannons. The lunar defense grid, Kara announced. Fully operational, one shot from those railguns can crack a planet's crust. The delegates recoiled. You built that in 6 weeks, whispered the Farian. Elias smiled. We work fast when we're motivated. He turned to leave, his boots clicking against the crystalline floor. The Vorac won't be your problem anymore. We've already sent them a message. The chamber's screens flickered again, showing the charred remains of the Vorac home fleet drifting in orbit around their capital world. A single transmission looped beneath the wreckage, a human voice, calm and final. This is your only warning. Silence. Then, from the shadows, a small figure floated forward, Thoraxis, the youngest Cerelian delegate, their bioluminescent orbs dimmed in submission. What do you want from us? Elias paused at the doorway. Nothing. Kara tossed a small device onto the central dais. It projected a star map, human territory marked in bold red. Just stay out of our way. As the chamber doors sealed behind them, the last thing the Concord heard was Kara's laughter, bright, fierce, and utterly without mercy. And for the first time in galactic history, the civilized feared the barbarians.